Hi, this is Carolyn Wainscott, and on today's segment of www.favequilts.com, I'm going to be showing you how to put together this t-shirt rag quilt. For the t-shirt rag quilt, I took my husband's shirts. Some of these are probably 20-25 years old. I made these for him because he always had to have pockets, and you can't buy a tank top with pockets. And he wore these all summer. And I just started cutting to create the squares or rectangles. My original thought was to have about 12 or 14-inch squares, and then I just took the lazy way out and I'm using a whole piece without cutting it up. Take your polar fleece, lay the wrong side of the t-shirt fabric onto the wrong side of the polar fleece. Cut out the same size square. So if you're going to make a 14-inch or 16-inch or 12-inch block, then you're going to want to cut that same size polar fleece. This particular quilt was determined by a t-shirt that had these transfers on it. They were large transfers, and I wanted to use all of it, and there were 2 transfers on the t-shirt. This is a t-shirt that my husband wore to the end of the year basketball tournaments that Travis was in. So Travis gets this one. The next step with the polar fleece and the t-shirt block is to pin the first block to the second block, and they are back sides together. This is the front of the quilt, and this is the back of the quilt. So here are the 3 rows pinned together and ready to sew. This is the top or the right side of the quilt. The seams will be on the top side. So these 6 seams will be sewn first. When you start sewing 2 of your blocks together, this is the back side, this is the front side, start about 1 inch in, or however long you want the fringe or the ragged look. So start that far in, fix your seam, and either use a straight seam or a zigzag. I've kind of chosen a zigzag here for some reason. Polar fleece and t-shirt knits are both extremely easy fabrics to work with. Neither one ravels, and that's what makes this such a good project for both the fabrics. And I'm going to stop again about 1 inch away from the corner and fix the seam. The first 2 rows have been sewn together. And this is 3rd row, and here again I've started about 1 inch in so that it can be fringed. The seams have been matched. When you come to the seams, you're going to sew up to the seam. And stop there and lock your seam in. Take that out of your machine, cut your threads. Now go around what we're going to rag here and come back to the seam. Lock that in again and continue on sewing. And leave about 1 inch again. Before we start fringing and making the ragged edges, this is the outside all around the little quilt, and I'm going to sew about 1 inch in, as long as I want my fringe all the way around. Again, I'm going to come to the seam and stop and fix the seam. Then I'm going to jump over the seam and continue on around. The t-shirt rag quilt is now ready to be all trimmed and fringed. When it comes to the corners, we're going to be clipping some of these extra corners out. Especially on the inside corners. There are 4 inside corners, and we don't need all of this, so we're going to cut straight down to the seam. And you're going to need a good pair of scissors here, or you're going to tear your hands up. Now we're going to start the fringing. And this is where you need a good pair of shears, and be careful not to clip into your seam.